imagined what it would look and feel like to marry into wealth and forget about all your money problems? Do you often daydream about a charming prince coming around to sweep you off your feet? Why don't we look into this almost unbelievable story of a regular Chinese girl who, with no magic wand, got married to a prince of another continent? A poor, nondescript girl marrying a prince to forever live happily in a castle is a fairy tale that most girls would want to recreate. Now, while everyone isn't Cinderella, an ordinary Chinese girl from Wuhan seems to have cracked the code for being a modern-day Cinderella. You must wonder if this happened, or if it is just another catchy piece from children's moonlight stories. I assure you this is real, and you will find out soon. Before we proceed, why don't you grab your favorite snack? This is going to be a long, interesting ride. Li Ran's early years and family. Li Ran was born in 1984 to his joy-filled parents in Maizhou in Wuhan, China. Her parents did basic jobs and were content with their modest income. Unsurprisingly, they were happy at the new addition of little Li to their growing family. Remember, Li's parents didn't have the resources to send their daughter to the same school as their rich neighbors, but they valued education and would do anything to ensure their precious daughter had a good future. The reason for this is simple. They both realized early on that they would have been better off if they had access to a good education like the others they see around. More importantly, they knew wishful thinking would not get them anywhere, and the only way to experience a good life would be to support their daughter as best they could. When Li was old enough, she was enrolled in a local school. She had a smart brain and retained 98% of what her teachers taught her. This impressed her parents so much that they vowed to not only support her because they were duty-bound, but to fund her education to the highest level she could dream of. Around age 5, Li showed interest in singing and playing the piano. This meant she would have to take piano lessons. Mind you, mastering them quickly and effectively was a prerequisite for owning a personal piano. However, given the meager income of her parents, it was understandable that the additional expenses were a tad too much for them. But did they falter? No. Instead of coming up with 1,000 excuses that would be tenable, they took up more jobs to enable them to pay for a piano and her lessons. Being a diligent girl, Li mastered the piano so well and fast that she attained level 10 proficiency in piano quickly. She could have become a celebrity singer or pianist in modern China if she had wanted. With this piano proficiency, one would have thought that her academic endeavors would suffer, but nothing could be further from the truth. She excelled in both her studies and other extracurricular activities. In all of this, you will notice that nothing could have prepared her for the royal and glamorous life fate had in store. Other people who would eventually marry princes and become princesses and queens would often attend high-end schools where they mingle with people of diverse backgrounds, possibly royal ones. They would then become friends and lay the foundation for probable union. Li's case differed from the norm. She was as ordinary. How did she end up becoming Europe's first Chinese princess? We'll get to that part instantly. But first, let's uncover some other interesting information about Li Ran. Education and career. After her elementary education, Li continued to high school, where she learned English and French in addition to the Mandarin she spoke as Chinese. With this, it would suffice to call Li a linguist, as she could converse effortlessly with the top 3 languages in the world. Unbeknownst to her, she was preparing for the future as a princess, but how could she have known? Li graduated from high school with good grades in the year 2002. With no time to waste, she enrolled to study economics at Beijing Language and Culture University. Needless to say, she passed her courses with flying colors. By 2006, she was a university graduate with a degree in economics. But she wasn't done with academics. In that same year, she secured a spot for herself at Sorbonne University, where she did her master's in business administration and graduated with honors in 2008. With all these degrees from prestigious universities, at the age of 24, one would easily think her next step was to apply for a job in the corporate world, which, by the way, would be a walk in the park given her cum laude degrees. But she chose differently. Instead of going that route, she decided to put her knowledge of supply and demand to test by interning at fashion stores. Why she decided to toe the fashion part is unclear, but that's not the point. The point was that she chose to work at high-end fashion stores like Dior, Fendi, and Balenciaga. These popular stores deal in clothing items and accessories that are in vogue. Mostly, these stores serve prominent actresses and actors, distinguished musical artists, and well-to-do politicians. While working at these stores, not only did her knowledge of economics and business administration come in handy, but her versatility in different languages was also a beautiful feather to her cap. Lee had the opportunity to meet and interact with people from all walks of life. She didn't just sell to them because she was after their money. Lee recommended items and made candid suggestions where appropriate. This trait and her calm demeanor endeared her to many customers, making them return for more purchases. Lee worked in these stores from 2008 to 2010. During this period, she met many people who wanted to employ her in their business because of her understanding. Others, especially men, wanted her as a companion and life partner. Lee wasn't interested in working for others as she found fulfillment in her chosen career. And why should she consider working elsewhere when she was already working with top players in the industry? Even if they promised to double or triple her take-home, it made no sense that she would leave known brands for struggling or barely known brands. Also, she knew how fickle human minds are. It's not unlikely that she reneged on their promises the moment she resigned from the fashion houses. And as for romance, it is not her top priority. But this changed in 2009 when she met Charles. Who is Charles? And what exactly was the attracting factor? Let's get into it. Meeting Prince Charles. While working for Fendi in Paris as a salesperson in 2009, Lee Ran and Prince Charles Joseph Deline met. The day had started like any other day, with no special sign for Lee Ran that she would meet her Prince Charming, who would eventually marry her. Remember, Lee Ran had been working in the fashion industry for a while and had met with hundreds, if not thousands, of prominent and wealthy people, including royalties. This meant meeting Prince Charles wasn't an unusual occurrence. What made it peculiar, however, was the type of conversation they had. From the meeting, Lee Ran began to notice some unique things. For example, when she showed him to different sections of the stores, she noticed Prince Charles knew as much as she did about different items and accessories. It also turned out they loved the same types of fashion and designs. At first, all Lee Ran thought of was how easy he made her job. This was because some customers she had contacted were problematic, and she often had to explain herself until fatigue set in to satisfy them. But with her new customer, Prince Charles, everything went seamlessly. As anyone could expect, they took a liking to each other immediately. Further conversations between them revealed Charles was a European prince from Belgium. Also, he was fashion inclined, which is why he was in Paris. Being a prince wasn't exactly what attracted Charles to Lee. It was the values and other attributes they both shared that laid the base of their friendship. Until 2009, Lee Ran hardly had time for friendship that could blossom into a long-term relationship. However, with Charles, she realized their conversion flowed smoothly, and before long, one thing led to another. They simply couldn't take their eyes off each other. Therefore, Charles frequented Fendi so he could spend more time with Lee. If you are wondering what kind of background Prince Charles came from, let's take a short detour to Belgium, shall we? Prince Charles' background and life before meeting Lee Ran. Prince Charles is from a royal house in Belgium called the House of Leen. It is from the oldest Belgian noble families that date back to the 11th century. Many people don't know this, but the family's name originated from the village of Leen. It is situated between ATH and Tournai, in the place now known as Hainaut, province of Belgium. The story of the Deline family is rather progressive as it underwent a steady rise when their nobility began as barons in the 12th century. They also served as Fauconberg and princes of Epinoy in the 16th century, then princes of Amblisse in 1608. On the 18th of December, 1544, the family became imperial counts. Shortly after, Lamoral I received the title of Prince of the Holy Roman Empire as Prince de Ligne on the 20th of March, 1600, and from Emperor Rudolph II. This title, however, is for both males and females, as long as they are his descendants. Today, the present monarch of Belgium is King Philip. He is married to Queen Matilda, and they both have a daughter, Elizabeth, who is next in line to take the throne. Prince Charles was born in 1980 in Paris. Unlike Lee Ran, whose family survived on a modest income, he was raised in luxury within palace-like mansions. Charles attended prestigious schools, from his elementary school to his tertiary institution. Today, he is a French-Belgian contemporary visual artist. He is also a landscape architect in the French capital. Sometimes he holds exhibitions and auctions, Overall, Charles is a lover of art and beauty. Family and society aversion. When Li Ram and Prince Charles started their relationship, it raised thousands of eyebrows. For some, it was genuine concern, while for others, it was pure derision. The people concerned were worried about Li Ran since they knew about the social disparity between her and Prince Charles. They feared her fragile heart could end up broken when Prince Charles' family opposed their relationship and rejected her because of her background. As for the other set of people who raised their brows in insult, it was also the same reason as the first set. However, the reason came from a place of aversion for Li's kind. These sets of people were mostly aristocrats, celebrity blogs, and other royal families in other kingdoms. They didn't want anything to do with her or anything that could taint their bloodlines. When the couple attended Charles' elder brother's wedding, Edward, in 2009, whispers and finger-pointing made them pretty uncomfortable. Fortunately for the lovebird, Charles's parents don't object to their union. If anything, they saw it as an opportunity for two great cultures to unite. The modest royal wedding. After courting for some time, Li Ran and Prince Charles married in November 2010 at the 12th century Antoine Castle in Wallonia, Belgium. It was a simple yet colorful wedding with important dignitaries, including Li Ran's family and the royal family in attendance. Despite its modesty, the wedding made headlines in all the major tabloids and media houses. Do you know why? People do not always get to see ordinary people marry into royalties. In the case of Li Ran, she was the first Chinese girl to become a Belgian princess. In 2012, barely 2 years after their wedding, the couple announced the birth of their son, Amadeo, who will celebrate his 12th birthday anniversary this year. How time flies. Here is the kicker. Amadeo, Li Ran's son, is next in line with the family title, as Charles's elder brother has no child of his own. For most people, a marriage to royalty means a life with no stress, as you will have everything provided for you. Well, Li Ran begs to differ. After her marriage, she returned to the workforce. She worked in the fashion industry to become the brand experience director at 28. In the year 2015, she appeared on the cover of Vogue, a popular fashion magazine. You may be wondering how lucky Li Ran is. Are there other ordinary women who have married princes? Let's look at a couple of them. Other unusual marriages in history. Looking through history before and after Li Ran and Prince Charles's relationship became sensational news, there have been women, albeit few, who came from ordinary backgrounds to marry noble and royal families. While Li Ran may be the first Chinese woman to marry a European prince, other women who married from other nationalities include Angela Brown and Meghan Markle. The first person of non-royal background who got married to European royalty in the modern era was of African descent. This is no other person than Angela Gisela Brown, who married Maximilian, the Prince of Liechtenstein. She was born in Boca del Toro, Panama, on the 3rd of February 1958. Angela was the daughter of a business mogul called Javier Francisco Brown and Sylvia Maritza Burke, who was a homemaker. When she was 5 years old, her parents moved to New York City, where she finished elementary and high school. After high school, she enrolled at the Parsons School of Design and studied the intricacies of fashion. Now hold on, she excelled at her studies and won one of the most coveted awards, the Oscar de la Renta Gold Thimble Award. Ready to conquer the world of fashion, Angela graduated in 1980. At first, she partnered with a firm in Hong Kong to establish her fashion label, which she thoughtfully named A. Brown. After a while, she took up the position of fashion director, a paid job, at a clothing firm called Adrian Vittadini. Now let's move on to the history-making part of Angela's story. Being a successful fashion businesswoman, she had the opportunity to attend parties where the creme de la creme of the society met and marry. It was one such party that Angela met Maximilian Nicholas Maria von Liechtenstein, the second son of Prince Hans Adam II, in New York in 1997. Besides being a prince with affluence, Maximilian was an investment executive who was studying at Harvard. After courting for 2 years, he offered Angela an elegant engagement ring in 1999. Shortly after, the couple married in the Church of St. Vincent Ferrer on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. As you can already guess, there was a buzz surrounding their union. Unlike Li Ran and Prince Charles, whose only issue was the differing social backgrounds, Maximilian family and society had more reasons to raise dust. Angela's family was not only of African descent and many leagues behind Maximilian's family in wealth, she was also 11 years older than him. Ultimately, the families had to kick their fears into the curb. Their wedding took place with their parents and 500 guests in attendance. After the wedding, the couple moved to a German-speaking part of Liechtenstein, where she has maintained a relatively low profile. The couple welcomed their only son, Prince Alphonse Constantin Maria von Liechtenstein, on the 18th of May 2001. Another unusual couple of ordinary women who married into royalty is Meghan Markle and Prince Harry of the British royal family. This particular one sparked headlines from the beginning, and even several years after their wedding, controversies never stopped trailing the couple. Many have often asked others how actresses, especially those who could not be classified as A-list actresses, managed to become a part of the most important royal family in the world. Well, here is the gist. A mutual friend set up Meghan and Harry on a blind date in July 2016. At the time, I doubted whether they knew what awaited them from the royal house or the internet. Perhaps they wouldn't have progressed past the blind date, but fate had a different plan. More than the food and wine, they had common interests and clicked almost immediately. They started checking each other's schedules at the dinner table to plan when they would see each other. In an interview they granted after their relationship had been made public, Meghan said, "We met for a drink, and then I think very quickly into that we said, well, what are we doing tomorrow? We should meet again." Things moved pretty fast between them, and several weeks later, Meghan honored Harry's invitation to travel with him to Botswana. Guess what? During this trip, they both knew they were meant for each other. In an interview, Meghan also narrated how Prince Harry proposed to her in an inexplicable, romantic way. She said she was making breakfast for both of them when Prince Harry went down on one knee and started a speech ending with, "Will you marry me?" Meghan continued by saying she was so head over heels in love with him that he didn't even allow him to finish before saying, "Can I say yes now?" They were married at the St. George Chapel in Windsor in May 2018. A year later, in the same month they married, Prince Harry and Meghan welcomed their baby boy. He was named Archie Harrison. Ever since they became a couple, there has been a lot of controversy surrounding them. Unlike Lee-Ran and Angela Brown, who got the approval of their in-laws, Meghan has never received any warm acceptance from the British royal family. And from the look of things, it doesn't look like she will find their graces anytime soon. So what is the Chinese-Belgian couple up to these days? Come with me. The couple today. Lee-Ran is not given to a social life. Most people of her caliber would choose every opportunity to appear in the public gaze, granting multiple interviews and honoring events, but not Lee-Ran. At some point, she convinced her husband to leave Belgium and lead a quiet life in Shanghai, away from the media attention, to focus on their jobs and raising their son. And he obliged. After all, two had become one. Last year, Lee-Ran made the headlines again when she visited her hometown of Wuhua. She was spotted wearing a fashionable shirt that showed how fashion-conscious she is. While there, she greeted students and former teachers at her former school. Despite her status as a princess, she was seen planting trees with local workers to demonstrate the importance of trees to the ecosystem. Many people search for Lee-Ran on social media, but the only thing the search engine turns up is her LinkedIn profile. And if there is one thing LinkedIn is known for, it is the fact that social activities rarely move on the platform. LinkedIn is a platform for professionals who, most of the time, want to seek jobs or give jobs. What a bummer, right? Her husband does a tad better in that aspect. Prince Charles occasionally posts family pictures on social media, especially Instagram. Besides that, the family keeps a private life away from the public's prying eyes. Would you act differently if you suddenly married into royalty? What would you do if you made headlines like Lee-Ran to catch the attention of a wealthy prince? Let us know in the comment section below. If you loved Lee-Ran's story and would love to see more of it, then do well to like, share this video, and subscribe to this channel. Also, don't forget to check out our other inspiring videos on this channel.